Okay, so that's the agenda. So we will talk about why is pricing so important, why it is difficult to nail it, and how not to do it, how to do it. At least I'll give you a simple process to follow. Hopefully it is for some. And finally, I removed the bonus because of the ethical questions around it and how to present your pricing. But if you want to start a conversation, so why is price so important? We can present it. Daphne, I think you have experience so far with that.
Yeah, I don't know that I have it right, but are you sharing the screen? Because I'm not seeing anything yet.
You're not seeing?
No.
What about the others?
I see it.
I can see it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing a slide that says why is price so important with the price tag.
right.
That's right. Maybe it's on your other monitor.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So I will continue then. I'll ask you a different question maybe later. So because it is important because the price affects, of course, your profit, and the profit is calculated as price minus the costs, right? So if your price is too low, below the costs, you're not making any profit. You're just making revenue, but you're not making profit. It also affects the perception of value or the perceived value by customers of your products. I guess this is a no-brainer, right? So if your pricing is too low, people will say, oh, there must be a catch in there, or I shouldn't be expecting the best service ever. And if you price it too high, however, you cannot prove or you cannot show the value, nobody will buy from you. So I will, with the process I will lay out for you, hopefully will help you come to a better decision or a smarter decision, pricing decision. And also the price affects how much is sold. If it's too high, few people will buy. There are pros and cons to this. And of course, if it's too low, you will sell more, or at least you think that you're selling more, but are you making more profit? I will challenge that in a second. And finally, your time is also affected. A good example today, I was talking to Ashley, right? And we can go into the example at the end because I don't want to disrupt the flow at the moment. But if you double your pricing, right, you can do less and still make the same amount, right? So if you are doing 30 hours and you're pricing 100, but you decide to double your pricing to 200, you can do half of the time with half of the customers, right? And still make the same profit. And then you have time to invest in other initiatives. Maybe you have other business ideas, or you want to focus on strategizing, or you want to create a new product. You need to create some time for it, right? So it affects your time and eventually your success. So why is price misunderstood? Because most people think that customers will buy on price. There's some research or studies that have been done and shown that only 10% of people buy on price. And those who buy on price, most of the time, it is because they cannot perceive any difference between the providers or the products or the services, right? So if I see that the three options I'm contemplating are of equal value to me in my eyes, I'll get the same results, then I will choose the one with the lowest price, of course. However, if one of them becomes successful at communicating the pricing, which is another side of the pricing strategy, or they are better at showing the value and the benefits of using their products and services, they can increase their prices much more easily because now they have differentiated themselves from the other two. This is something also that many people fall into out of laziness, or they think that they do not have time, or I have to start making money. So they just assume what people will pay and do not do any research. And also there's an assumption that lower prices means more sales. And finally, I think this is the most important one. We assume that customers are like us, right? So if I'm middle class, so I assume that all my customers, for instance, are able to pay or to afford this much, right? There's also the mindset attached to it here. So why is it difficult? first and foremost, especially for service providers, right, is the mindset shift. So the IS is here, I was typing imposter syndrome, that affects the pricing. You think that you have nothing of distinction or anything differentiated to offer, you're just like everybody else. Or you think that people can only afford this much because, again, you assume that you are just selling to people who are of similar economic status. And we can list a number of them. Maybe I can ask Michael, what do you think? Can you add anything else to the mindset when it comes to pricing and how it affects the way we price our services?
I suppose could be how it's perceived, like who's buying it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like how the seller or the service provider, what kind of mindset or beliefs that can affect the way they price their services. It can be underpricing mostly their services.
Well, probably the assumption that they know the marketplace, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a lot of people, you know, that are expert in a particular field kind of place their own point of view on the customer, and they may not know. You know, most people don't know what other people know.
Yeah. So if we can summarize it, they do not really know their customers. They're just assuming, making assumptions.
Yeah.
And the way and their mindset is the prism through which they see they make decisions. Oh, my product or service is not doesn't offer any additional value to what others offer, and so I can only price it this much. What about you, Shanna? I remember that you had some struggles with pricing that you finally resolved.
Yeah, I found that I was a lot more successful with it than I had thought once I started analyzing it. And I made some adjustments to my pricing to see if I would get reaction, if I would get more business or less business, and it gave me a lot of data to work with. So this Christmas, I did all my dog sitting. I did not upcharge this year for holiday. And I had a few people ask me if I was going to, and I said no. And then I had a few people ask me if I was going to raise my rates for the new year. And for customers that it's just dynamic. And so I've just taken a real dynamic approach to it, because customers that bring me other business or they just use me a lot, I'm not raising their rates. And then others I am. I know I underprice in a lot of ways, and it'll be something I'll look at, but again, I'm always looking at these fine details, their reactions, how often they come, how much referral they give me, things like that. But of course, when you're getting new business, you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And feel it out a lot quicker.
Was it out of fear that you didn't raise your prices? That you were taking some customers, or you would have less customers?
No, it wasn't out of fear. I wanted to take more time and energy and research before I made any moves like that. And while I know it's a good time right now, also I kind of have a policy with my existing customers that I don't make too many changes too often in any sense, because they need a feeling of stability. And I make pricing very, very simple. It's like one price for the night, anytime drop off, anytime pick up. It'll work itself out after a while, you know. And I see customers, nobody takes advantage of it. Lots of people tip me and appreciate it and always thank me. And then subsequently I get more business and more money and more referrals. So yeah, I do err on the side of cheaper just for the type of clientele that it brings me in the type of relationship. So I end up getting more business. Okay.
But most importantly, are you achieving your objectives, like monetary objectives or financial objectives?
Well, food's getting on the table, so yeah, there's food on the table, so that's good. But you know, I have to make adjustments when, you know, I got kind of dry, but it was that time of year, and I found that because of the time of year, I had to back my prices down to get the increase in volume. So I do play with pricing a little bit for new customers when it comes to the volume, and I did do an increase for new customers, and I just didn't like the response that I got, you know. And maybe it's from the market and what people expect and knowing what people expect, but when I err on a little bit, or I set it high, and then, you know, I'll work with people and adjust it down. So, you know, I think just keeping it really dynamic and fluid is the right way to go. But because I have people on such a scale, you know, I don't really have like okay, if I have this many dogs, I'll make this much money, or so I don't really have the objectives lined out yet, which I'm sure that'll change my drive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. We can discuss a bit later.
Sure.
But yeah, it's always the fear also, or the concern. But
Yeah, I see that a lot.
from what I gathered is that you're putting food on the table, and I hear this a lot, especially within autonomy, that people they value impact or relationships, right? They forget themselves maybe. I think you can still, because at the end of the day, the price is attached to a value they receive, or the benefits they receive, or whatever you offer them, and that every benefit is related to the time you put in. Because if you want to add, okay, you can bring your pet, and I will do this and this and that, and everything takes time, right, and effort. So they're paying with it, and if you just keep adding value without asking for the price, well, why having a price in the first place? The price should reflect the value that you offer. And do you have different packages or different plans? Like if you pay this much, you get this or that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But I can expand that. I am planning on expanding that this year too, a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
Puppies and training and things.
Yeah, that's another way that would be like the cross-selling or upselling. And the second thing that it requires, besides the mindset shift or the confidence, is doing the work, which is the research basically, or testing at least, and not just making assumptions. So how not to do it? See, these are the mistakes that you see people fall into mostly. The cost pricing is mostly for products, but there are different ways for a service provider to calculate the costs. That you might be using tools to schedule, or to maybe Zoom to run meetings, whatever it is. It can be the time that you put in, right? You can say that this is how much time it cost me, which is fine. You should start there actually, because you need to know where your price. So I put the cost first. I know that it cost me 10, so at least I have to charge 11, right? Without taking into consideration all the other factors like value pricing or value-based pricing. And here I'm adding only because these things should not be taken independently. You should have an overview of your costs, and also you need to understand the value that you are offering to people. And of course, how you communicate the value will be the way that you will change the perception, or the way you're perceived by the customers. Yes, your customers might say, no, I don't want to work with you, the prices are high. However, if you know that your competition is not offering the level of service you are offering, and they want to go with them, let them go with them. If they were really for the relationship, they would, if the pricing is reasonable, they will stay with you.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking about now, because I'm trying when I started with imposter syndrome, started with a really, really low price and had to grow through all that, and it was ambition to put food on the table, like this has to increase if this isn't going to work. But now trying to take these fundamentals and put them towards going into something new. So now I'm looking at doing, digital marketing and being able to quantify and basically, like you said, communicate that this has value. And the people I'm looking at, they don't necessarily have other options. It's even just saying this has value in the first place. Like, hey, this is something that you need, and I can provide it. And but yeah, I think I'm at the market research now, because I have no idea even what people pay for that kind of thing.
Yeah, you can ask them when you have new clients or leads. You can ask them, like, have you done work with somebody else? How much you were paying? Ideally, again, whenever you ask this kind of questions, some questions you can ask in person, but you would in a form, like in an not anonymous, but like that doesn't necessarily have to be like face to face, so that you get really good answers. There are different ways of capturing this information, which can be actually vital to your pricing. Copy paste pricing, which most people do when they are starting. Like, okay, what others are charging for this kind of service? They're not looking at the features or the benefits. They're just looking at this kind of service. So it's like as if it's like one size fits all service, which is not true. In this case, one of the features that you can use as an advantage that you can communicate is the relationship. You might not think of it as a feature, but it is, right? Especially when people are handing living creatures to you, and it's going to be a long-term relationship. They need to trust you, right? And you cannot trust whoever. And it's not easy to build trust. But if you are good at it, you can establish this trust from the first time you meet with them, before they know about any pricing. So copy pasting the competition is not the best way, maybe when you're starting, but if you don't consider the costs or the results and other things.
Yeah, when I started, I copy paste.
which is normal as long as it's bringing in the customers that you need and you're covering the costs, it's fine. And then perpetual discounting. I've taught students, like dozens of them, and they all think that when we ask them, like, what kind of strategy will you have to sell the product? The first thing they say is discount. The problem with discount is that anybody can do it. And the one who can go the lowest will win eventually. And what happens most of the time is that people start doing anything to gain market share, especially in corporations where they can do unethical stuff, right? Just to meet the target because they are assigned targets. And it's also detrimental to your business because if you have people, for example, that you have to pay salaries for, that could be disastrous. So here I provide an example of, of course, it's fictional. So we have here, the initial price is $10. We're assuming that this is an existing business that has been doing business for some time. So they have the price, the item or the service, $10, right? It costs them $8 to produce. And then their profit per sale is $2. So they sell for 10, and this is how much they are left with. And they are used to making 100 sales per month or per year. And their total profit is $200. So what they decide to do is to start offering 5% discounts. So what happens here, now the price is $9.5, right? So that's the discount. The cost is still the same. They're making now $1.5 per sale, and they're still selling 100, making 100 sales. They are now making 150. So if they want to make 200, they need to sell more. I will do the calculation here in my mind, and that brings it to 133 sales. Now they need to make the same profit, 200. So 33% more effort, right? More marketing, more sales calls, etc., to get to 200, just by increasing by 5%. Giving a discount of 5%. Yeah. So you can say 33% more work for them. If we go by 10%, now they are only making a $1 in profit per sale. And they're only making $100 if they are not selling more than 100 items, right? So in order for them to go back to 200, they need to double their sales. So they need to do 200 per month or per year, and that's doubling their work as well.
So, Rawad, are you saying that when you provide a discount, it doesn't really translate in increased sales just because you give a discount? Is
Yes,
that what you're saying?
You will need more sales than you think. So you think that I will give a discount of 5% and that will increase my sales, but you don't know for how many. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but you cannot do it forever.
Okay.
I need to pause here because my family forgot to take their keys, so I have to run for a minute and come back, continue. Sorry about it.
We'll talk to each other. Hi, guys.
Hey, yo!
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, I for me, the price is totally arbitrary, but I found there's a certain level where people will come, I'll price high and people will come, but they'll only come for like a once a year vacation and they won't keep coming back. Where I make lots of money with people going, hey, I'm going shopping. Can I just drop off my dog? So it's a 5% discount is completely arbitrary. I'm thinking maybe he thinks based on what the market would charge for an item. I'm looking at Daphne like she would know.
So Shana, is this a business you already had, or you just started the dog sitting?
I've been doing it for about 5 years.
Oh, okay.
But this is the first time I've looked at it in such a technical manner.
Yeah, this is perfect for me today because I'm struggling with increasing my prices. Rewad's back.
Yeah.
What do you sell?
Yeah, what is your service, Ashley, or product?
Massage therapist.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think we may touch on it too towards the end here. So
Yeah. Yeah, so you can increase your prices, and you have to also know how to communicate it with, especially your customers, your VIPs, right? You can frame it as in a way that, hey, if you commit to 1 year with me, for example, you can retain or maintain the same price that you're paying now. You lock it for 1 year. You can say, hey, I have, you know, that how things are going, inflation raging, I have people to pay salaries for, etc., etc. Right? They will understand. But if you just increase the prices just for the sake of doing it, then the backlash will be harsher, I would say. Also, you can test it. Right?
Well, for
the way you present it for different people. So you have the great customers, the returning customers. You have the bad customers that are never grateful. You need to put in more effort with, right? So you have to really think about it and offer them different offers. Please go ahead, Daphne.
Well, I was gonna say for something like massage, you know, committing for a year, it's a bit vague, but if you can say, I don't know, like come once a week or twice a month or whatever, and you commit to doing that for the rest of the remaining of the year, then maybe it's more defined than just saying if you commit for the year, because what does that mean?
I'm just giving a random example.
Right. No, I was just giving for Ashley, you know, a more concrete.
Yeah, I have an example for that too. Oh, am I on? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an example for that too for Ashley. I just saw a massage therapist and she gives packages like 3 and 5 sessions. Well, I can't afford a 3 or 5 package sessions, so she lets me make payments. And basically I just pay at the session, but it's basically her way and my way of assuring that it's going to be the same price over a certain amount of time.
Yeah, so she made sure now you're committed to that, to spending this much, right? So that's the point here I'm making, that is trying reframe it, make it easier for people to, or more affordable. Sometimes instead of asking for a lot upfront, you can ask for less, and then it's like if I show you $1,000 and I tell you, you have to pay 500 now and then another at the end of our commitment, like say in 2-3 months. Like it might seem a lot to you, but if I say you pay 250 and the rest every month you will pay 100, that's in their minds they will think that this is a good deal because I don't have to pay like 500 at one time, and then I have to be ready with another 500 at a time. Although you're giving them a deadline, most people will not budget for it. So how to do pricing here? So you can use this very simple scale. Looking at what you know about the market, you can note down the highest price point that you see, and then the lowest, and then you'll have the average. You calculate the average. So say the lowest is 50, and the highest is 150, right? So we would say the average is 100. So with that information, you can start. There could be more factors that you can consider, but these are some of the things that you can use. So what is your business objective from a business perspective? What would be the ideal price based on this spectrum here? It will come closer here for some, to simplify things. I put 150. Of course, you would want to have the best pricing. You can compare your product and service and the benefits you can bring in to that of your competition, and that these are the differential benefits. And you would say, well, my product compared to others would fall under the 110. I think that would be the best price if people looking at it from the customer perspective. And then you have your reputation. For example, you can say, if you're just starting, you might say, okay, I'm just starting. Maybe I can only charge this much. And then based on your knowledge of the target customer, so you need to have a specific type of customer in mind and what kind of attitude they would have to your pricing. Let's say they would go with 75. So what you would do here, you add up all of these factors. If you have more, you would add these 2, and then you divide them by the number of factors. So you consider it here, I should have changed it to 4, and that brings you to an average or a price point of 96.5. So that would be kind of the ideal price point that you can consider for your business. And that's about it. So You start with the highest and lowest, and then you calculate the average. And then you start using these criteria or more. And you place the price on the spectrum based on each. And then you add up all the factors, all the prices, and divide them by the number of factors that you have considered, and you will come to, hopefully, the ideal price point for your business.
Can you clarify a couple of things? Like, how did you come up with reputation and target customer aptitude? Like, are they part of that from 50 to 150? Like, or how did you?
So yeah, everything I'm doing here in this table, I have this range from 50 to 150 to consider for the pricing. And I'm taking each factor. So if I was to decide on a price only based on my financial or business objective, I would go with 150. If I look at,
and by reputation,
is like, how long have you been in business? Do you have a reputation? You already had some
how many satisfied
testimonials,
clients and customers,
etc. Yeah, any social proof, you can say. If you're just starting here,
Okay.
this is what I assumed here.
And target customer aptitude means?
Attitude means that what you believe that the target customer, the persona, will be willing to pay. What would be the highest that he would pay?
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then you add them up and divide them by the number of factors. So you're
Got it,
kind of
okay.
averaging again.
Yeah. And differential benefits, meaning
Is how
what?
different your product and service is in terms of benefits that they deliver compared to the competition.
Okay, so you're still making up all these numbers yourself. It's not like there's.
Well, you have to do
Right.
research, right? You have to look at what the competition is doing. So the differential benefits. You have to consider internally what you need, right, to survive as a business. You also have the reputation, because people will, sometimes you might not have differential benefits, but you have a good reputation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Okay.
target customer. So this is the customer perspective. All of these three. So you can add more factors you can consider, but this is to simplify things. These are the. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
That's it for my presentation. But if you want to, if you have further questions about the presentation or anything else related to marketing, I'm happy to answer. We've got about 20 minutes left.
What tools do you use for data collection?
For what exactly?
Well, you said that you mentioned collecting data for, to make up some of your opinions, as
Yeah. There's
your set.
data you can ask customers, clients, or target customers or target audience that you have. So let's say you have a social media following and you know that they could be your potential customers. You can ask them how much they are willing to pay or how much they have paid for similar services in the past. So that's one way. Sometimes you find this information.
How do you database that? How do you collect all that data and organize the data that you receive once you've started investigating?
So I would use a simple form. Sometimes people rely on simple polls, right? So like something on LinkedIn or like we have in the Circle, right? And it's not easy to come up with a survey because the way you present the information will affect how people will respond to the collection. And you have to take it with a grain of salt. But the point is that at the end you need to test it, right? You will not nail it from the first time. But not testing the different price points will leave you in the dark. You don't know if you can make more profit or not, right?
So you just start playing with the scale and seeing what it brings you?
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me, when you say business objective, are you talking about costs and just costs and then a profit margin, or what does that involve?
Of course, you have to be considering the profit, like how much you want to make in profit, or maybe at this stage you're just concerned with the revenue, for instance.
All right.
You need to know your cost structure. So how much it's costing you to deliver, to operate, right? And then you need to know what kind of margin you need to see. So you can start at the beginning, or after you've come with the price, you can compare it to your cost. But ideally, you would know your cost. And by looking at the competition or in the market, you would know, okay, if the lowest is they're pricing it at 50, maybe it will be difficult to know for sure that they are still making a profit. And anyway, you shouldn't go with the 50. You should be aiming for the highest possible, right? Depending on your capacity. So you might want to go with the $150, and that would be considered a premium service, but it's not as easy as it seems, right? It means that you have to either increase your capacity. Maybe you need to have certain skills. Maybe you need to bring in more tools that you will need to pay for, right? You might need to hire more people as well. But all things considered, we would say that $50 is the lowest, and I could still make some kind of profit. But you have to look at it again through the lenses here. The benefits to customers, reputation, target customer, knowledge, etc.
So then you're adding that all up, and each one is a plus. So it'll be the 150 plus the 110 plus 50.
Yeah.
And then 75, and then come up with an average.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If you have an accountant, of course, that would be very helpful as well to help you with the calculation of your costs, etc. But here, just I'm giving a simple example for a one-man or woman show. And this can be done, of course, for each product or service that you are providing. Like, it's not for your entire business. Any questions?
No, this is useful. Good timing too.
So how, Daphne, will you be using this information?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, I think just basically the whole industry is way underpriced. And every influencer out there is talking about architects, raise your fees. And now I'm looking at, this equation that you just put out, and given how many years of experience, how many satisfied customers there are, and knowing how little the customers are willing to pay, that should average out somewhat of a reasonable increase on how, where to place that number. So I think this is very useful.
Is that called value-based pricing? What? Value-based pricing?
So value-based pricing is mostly about what you think, or what people would think, and what kind of value they're getting by paying that number.
So experience and like the things she's talking about would be the value. Yeah.
So if you are known, for example, or you have proved for a number of customers that you have delivered outstanding results compared to competition, that you're now looking at a premium price, right? You have the evidence and the reason to do that. Now the presentation will be important too, how confident you are, how you present the different price points, etc.
There's a couple of task apps in San Francisco where, like TaskRabbit, where you can hire somebody to do menial work, kind of like Uber, but for construction and different tasks. And it's all that type of pricing. If you have more comments, positive comments, and if you have more experience, then the app will automatically charge more. Where if you don't have a lot of comments or don't have a lot of experience, you're on the lower end of the scale.
Yeah, the problem with that is that they're deciding for you.
What's that?
The problem is that they're deciding for you.
Well, they give you the parameter and then you can set it, but it should match within what people are expecting, because now as the consumer, they can say, oh, I don't care. I could just use a newbie, that's fine. Or someone that needs precision work, then they're going to want to charge higher. So yeah, the consumer is really looking at how you position yourself within that range too, but it's suggested by the app. So you do still have control.
Kind of enforced by the app from what I hear, because you cannot go above the threshold they put for you. Right. You can.
It's a recommend. They give you a recommendation. Yeah, they give you a recommendation range, and the more positive experiences you have, and the more experiences you have, they recommend that you charge more. But it's still your prerogative to choose.
Okay.
Right.
I thought there was you cannot go beyond this range.
Yeah, no. But people will look at that. If you have no experience and no community response, and you're charging a lot of money, you're not going to get business.
Yeah, I guess that's helpful for the customers to acquire new customers. However, with the referrals, you can sometimes increase the price because they learned about how well your offer is and your service is. They'll be willing to pay as much as the previous person paid as well.
Yeah, well, that's the referrals would be the community, you know, the 5 stars or whatever.
Yeah.
What do they call them? Testimonials.
Yeah, this is what we're trying to do with the testimonials. I don't know if people read the testimonials really, but if they see them there, it's still a proof to them. It's like you're collecting more points in their minds. Like, okay, you have testimonials. Okay, the pricing is good. Oh, the benefits are good. Yeah.
So if with a commission-based business, it would be difficult to use that formula, you think? Because a commission-based business is like, you're not really charged, you're not making the charge, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You're
not in control of the price.
Like
Yeah.
like a real estate agent.
yeah,
Yeah, there was this book, how's it called? Freakonomics, I think. There were a sequel of them, a series of them, but one of the first one, I think they talk about real estate agents. That you would be surprised that they would not try to sell your property for a higher price. They'd rather go with velocity. So
yeah.
they want to close deals faster so that they can move on to the next one. So that's something you can also have to consider, like as a service provider. So if it takes you 3 months to get a decision from a customer, if you're working with, especially with B2B or businesses, there's a formula, it's called sales velocity, I think. And you have different factors that you need. So the average cost, the average value per sale, the sales cycle, how long it takes for you to close a sale, and I guess the price and the closure rate. So if you do 10 calls, how many of these you can close?
Yeah.
Yeah, in your case, Edward, I guess the velocity, and it depends on the time you want to invest in that. If it's commission, usually it's a side hustle, maybe that is something you do on the side whenever you have time. But it can be a full-time project or work for you. Then you would maybe convince people to try to get bigger packages for them, or try to sell them bigger packages so you can sell more. I'm trying not to divulge a lot of information because I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's a situation where you really got to be really conscious of your costs.
Time and money.
Time and money, yeah.
Because you're not getting a salary. This is performance-based
Right.
marketing. So you only get paid when you close a deal.
So
Okay.
I had a question too. As far as do we have time for another question?
Sure.
As far as the rollout, like we were talking about how you tell people, you know, so in my particular case, most of my clients, almost every one of them are repeat clients. Not everybody is as regular, but I would say that the most common is ranging from every other week to once a month. That's really what my book consists of. So then the message or basically of how do you tell people or how do you roll that out? Like what is the best way? And I know we've gotten a lot of a lot of different thoughts on how to do the actual pricing. One thing that I have concerns with is charging different people different rate for like the same work. And then, but let's say that I am just making a general price increase. What is the best way, do you think, to present that information to people? And how much of a heads up should you give them?
That's a tricky question, but I guess you need to consider how many of these customers you can increase their prices. And you need to justify the increase in pricing too. Like, okay, so you're increasing your prices. Why are you increasing your prices?
Right. So do you think like writing a letter, like an announcement, like dear valued client, my rates are going to be going up effective X date. And the reason being is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. If you don't have a big number of clients, they're limited. You can have one-on-ones with them.
Right.
because you want to
I
sell
was
too,
thinking the
right?
same thing.
You want to sell, like maybe you want to make an offer to them. And if you have like session by session, yes, I know that there are people who selling a package, but it's a package of sessions. Again, the focus should be on the results.
Yeah.
So if they need 3 months this is maybe a bit off topic, but if they need 6 sessions to get a specific result, then you should sell it as this result. Like relying on them coming or not coming, that's not very viable, I would say. You need to have some stability. You need to know how much you'll be bringing in every month.
Also, I think if you do announce that you are raising your rates, and you could do it on an individual email basis, in person, or a mass mailing, but you can always say, I will be raising my rates starting this date, but between now and then you can buy packages for these many, and they will be good until you finish them. So that they,
Yeah.
you give them the incentive of get in before the rates go up, and then, then they know that when that package is over.
Yeah, I am not a big package person. I have done that before, but it's selling the work at a discount, and I personally don't think that I want to discount my work. I consider my work to be premium and would put it against anybody in the area, and I mean that. And I'm not a bragger at all, but I consider
But
my
in
work
this
to be
case, it
top
wouldn't.
tier.
Yeah, no, in this case, it wouldn't be discounted. You're like, you can buy 6 at the current price.
Right.
And then
And-
when they run out, you'll be paying, the new top premium.
Right. Now, the other thing is that as from a packaging perspective, it also, I guess that you're making a commitment that you're going to have that availability, but I'm only one person, so I don't know, I'm not saying that I wouldn't do that, but I'm also saying that I don't know that I love a packaging model for my particular business.
Yeah. I won't worry about being only one person in your availability, because your availability is by appointment only anyway. So
Right.
you wouldn't worry about that. And then some people, when I raise their rates, I just let them know the next time, hey, I'm raising rates, so the next time you come, it's going to be this price. And then if they have any problems or go, ooh, this or that, then they can talk to me about it, that, right
Right.
there, and we can
Yeah.
maybe negotiate. But that's
the
kind of
other-
your line you can do. Like, hey, next time you come back, it's going to be this much per minute or whatever.
So
Yeah,
that might
but-
be a strategy if you're raising prices. If you're raising prices, you could say, well, I'm raising prices, but if you want to buy a package, you can get the old prices, for this many things or something.
Right.
Yeah, it should be, the focus should be the result at the end of the day. Now you can say that
Yeah.
you need to be flexible too, like the discount, you cannot discount it also completely. But with the packaging, what's happening is that that every month you will be bringing in that much and not relying on somebody flaking out next month or the month after, right? So there's this, maybe you're making less, but you will have to test it first before knowing if it's going to be
Right.
less or not. And if you're only relying on repeat customers, that's also an issue, because again, the issue here is that you cannot simply increase your prices, right? Because there might be some backlash of some sort, right? You don't want to lose them. So you need to be working on acquiring new customers and testing these new prices with them.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I was just going to ask what you thought about that, Rawad. I've raised prices, but only for new customers. And then other people hear about it like, oh, I saw in your bookings said that you charge this much per day. And then I'll say, oh, well, you're grandfathered in and your price increase will come later and slower because you're one of my original customers. So
Perfect.
I've done that a lot too, where I raise prices, but just for the new people coming in. And I test that way too.
Yeah, it's about, so people want to know in advance, right? So what you did is very wise. So you told them, you threw it in there. You took the opportunity to say, there will be an increase, but you don't have to worry about it for now. But now they're ready for it. Predictive program. So till next time then.
Hey,
Excellent.
thanks everybody.